You are asleep. It is minus 40 degrees outside. Nothing is between you and that cold except a layer of animal hide and the warmth of the people pressed against you. No furnace, no blankets shipped from a factory, no walls built from anything but bone and packed earth. For roughly 20,000 years, this was simply Tuesday. This was the last glacial maximum, the coldest stretch of the most recent ice age. And somehow, in the middle of that frozen world, your ancestors didn't just endure it, they built lives in it. How? Start with shelter. On the open, treeless plains of what is now Ukraine, there were no forests to cut for timber, so people built with what the land offered them: mammoths. At a site called Mezherich, archaeologists uncovered huts built almost entirely from mammoth bones, dozens of skulls and tusks stacked and interlocked, then covered with hide to trap heat. Now think about clothing. Archaeologist Olga Sofa studied tiny impressions pressed into fired clay at Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic and found the woven texture of cordage dated to roughly 27,000 years ago. Before agriculture, before metal, people were twisting plant fiber into cord and stitch and fitted layered clothing, using bone needles found across dozens of Ice Age sites. Because here is what your body cannot do that a wolf's body can. No fur. Not much body fat compared to Arctic mammals. Thin skin. Your ancestors weren't adapting biologically to survive the Ice Age. They were engineering their way around biology entirely, one stitched seam and one insulated hide at a time. Then there was fire. Not just warmth, but protection from predators in the dark and a way to cook fat and marrow into calories dense enough to fuel a body burning enormous energy just to stay alive in that kind of cold. But survival here was never really an individual project. Researcher John Hoffaker, who has spent decades studying human adaptation to Arctic environments, has argued that what let people push into these landscapes wasn't a new body. It was a new way of thinking, planning across seasons, caching meat in permafrost pits so an autumn hunt could still feed a family in February, sharing information across networks of connected groups, trading tools and raw materials across huge distances, so one bad season in one valley didn't mean starvation for everyone in it. Objects found hundreds of miles from where they were made are evidence of that safety net. So let's reconstruct the day. You wake before dawn, layered in stitched hide, inside a hut built from mammoth bone. The fire from the night before reduced to embers. Someone is already feeding it, because letting it die completely in this cold is not a mistake you get to make twice. Outside, the world is white and flat and silent. The group eats fat-rich meat together, because calories here are survival math, not preference. Later, someone repairs a torn seam with a bone needle and sinew thread, while someone else packs fresh snow into the gaps in the hut wall. A child watches, learning by copying, because there are no books here, just hands showing hands what has worked for thousands of winters. Nobody is doing this alone. Nobody could. And here is the twist that tends to surprise people. We picture the Ice Age as a story of individual toughness, the lone hunter facing down the elements. But the record tells a different story. At Sungir, in what is now Russia, burials reveal thousands of painstakingly carved ivory beads, buried even with children who could not have earned that status through labor alone. That level of ornamentation only makes sense in a society with deep social bonds and resources to spare, even in the deadliest cold on the planet. Survival wasn't about being the strongest individual. It was about how tightly the group held together, season after season, winter after winter. Which brings us to you. You will probably never build a hut out of mammoth bones. You will never need to. But the instinct that got your ancestors through 20,000 years of glacial winters is still sitting inside you, mostly unused. The instinct to prepare before scarcity hits instead of after. The instinct to build things that outlast a single bad day. The instinct to lean on other people, not as weakness, but as the actual technology that let a hairless, clawless, fangless animal survive the coldest era in human history. Every time you stock your pantry before a storm, every time you check in on a neighbor, every time you plan for a hard season before it arrives, you are running software that is tens of thousands of years old, tested against conditions almost none of us will ever have to face again. You are asleep. It is minus 40 degrees outside. And somehow, because of everything your ancestors figured out in the dark, you are still here to read this.